experience the movie that critics...
Part of you're fired, don't you understand?
You fellas ain't heading up to Rocky Summit now, are you? According to the legend, it's haunted. Listen to me. Stay away from Rocky Summit. It's dangerous. Evil.
This place is scary, but it's not deadly, right?
They say the ghost of the little girl still wanders the slopes, seeking revenge.
You are quite the bad boy.
We are gonna shred until we're dead!
You know, we never caught the killer, so you gotta get out.
No!
The next time we're being stalked by a serial killer, do not go into the basement.
Come and get me!
This is Jared McVeigh from Island of Blood, a.k.a. Whodunit, and you're listening to The Hysteria Continues.
And indeed you are. Welcome back to this very festive episode 298. And we're getting in a Christmas spirit with killing snowboarders, basically. So not much Christmassy about this apart from the snow, which of course automatically makes it incredibly Christmassy. So yes, we're full of festive cheer.
It's like that whole Die Hard thing. Is it or isn't it a Christmas movie? Is this or isn't this a Christmas slasher?
Well, yes. I would say it's not a Christmas slasher, but
No.
it certainly is. It's snowy, snowbound.
Well, the thing is, we're kind of running low on Christmas slashers, so I kind of wanted to parse them out a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's why I went with a snowbound slasher.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that's going to be our feature presentation. Is 2001's Shredder. So, which is Joseph's pick. We're looking forward to talking about that. And how are you doing, Erik? Snowbound or eggbound?
Eggbound.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if you might be snowbound or eggbound. I don't know what the weather's like in.
What's eggbound mean?
I think it kind of tends to mean if you eat too many eggs, you're a bit constipated.
Oh, well, no, that's not an issue. We'd be glad to hear. And I'm not snowbound either.
So it's not kind of there's no Santa outside shaking a sack for you or anything like that.
Oh, I can only wish.
I can imagine what Santa coming down your chimney.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm
a
sure.
White Christmas, indeed.
I'm sure all these jokes have been made every Christmas for the last 10 plus years. So, but
Santa is hot though.
Well, I know we don't want to get you started on that, Erik. But Nathan, do you normally have a white Christmas or not?
No, I feel like the last few Christmases it's just rained.
Well, it's not very festive, is it? But is it kind of sometimes? Does it get a bit foggy where you are?
It gets foggy a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Yeah.
Yes. And Joseph, are you feeling festive? Festive? That's not a word, is it?
You feeling festive?
Festive. Yeah. Festive is the word, isn't it? I'm looking
it's
for
festive. Well, it's cold and rainy here, but I do have a cup of hot cocoa, and I'm talking about Shredder, so that's as festive as can be.
Okay. Well, this is going out before Christmas, so we hope you all have a fantastic holiday and Christmas time and New Year's Eve as well, I guess. We'll be back in the new year with another episode, which we'll discuss. We'll tell you what it is at the end of this. But before we get onto the main event of the show, which isn't Erik's soundboard, let's have a little chat about what we've been watching recently, if we've managed to catch anything in the last week or so. So, Erik, how about you?
Yes, I've seen a few things. I saw It's a Wonderful Knife. I'm the last of the four of us to see it. And I'm definitely Team Joseph with this one. I loved it. As a slasher film, it mightn't tick all the right boxes for slasher fans, but I thought it had so much heart, and I thought there was so much going on with just the It's a Wonderful Life type scenario that it sets up, that it could have worked without a slasher element, to be honest. I just love the two main characters of Winnie and Bernie, I think is their name. And it had a real feel-good quality that will make it definitely a annual Christmas watch for me. I thought it was the best sort of Christmas slasher movie I've seen in many a year. So I loved it. I know that Nathan, you had issues with there's sort of a strange plot point tangent it goes off on and towards the end of the film, and I can see why. I mean, it does come out of left field a bit, but it didn't bother me too much. And then when the final coda, I thought was just wonderful as well. And I'd if a sequel came out, I'd definitely be first in the queue to watch it. The second one I watched again on streaming. This is a new one called Leave the World Behind, which promised much in the premise, which has a kind of a Twilight Zone feel for much of the film. It's 2 hours 20, very long. It's Julia Roberts and Ethan Hawke. They are a couple who bring their 2 children out to an Airbnb in the middle of the country to escape their hectic lives. And once they get there, sort of signs of an impending apocalypse start happening. So all this kind of weird stuff starts appearing. Like there's this brilliant scene at the start where this oil tanker is coming towards them and they're sitting on a beach. And the oil tanker shows no signs of stopping, and eventually it crashes ashore. And it's all very strange. And then there's a great scene of all these Tesla self-driving cars piling up on a motorway. And it seems to be building... It feels like an M. Night Shyamalan type of movie. And I was really hoping there would be something outlandish for the finale. And unfortunately, it doesn't go to any outlandish places. It kind of decides to be... kind of arty and ambiguous, and I wanted it to have some kind of trashy explanation at the end is what I was kind of hoping for. So at 2 hours 20 I was left kind of bitterly disappointed by the last sort of act of the film, because I thought the first 2/3 were interesting and it was building up towards something, but for me it amounted to kind of nothing in the end. Has anyone else seen it?
No, I've never even heard of it.
It's a kind of big. It's the big new one of the big new movies that Netflix have been pushing. I did, yeah. I watched it a week or so ago. I'm kind of more team of I didn't mind the ending, that kind of ambiguous kind of ending, because you've never, it's kind of never quite given away exactly what the threat is. Well, it kind of is, but you don't know. There's still quite a lot of questions unanswered. So I did see that the thing that I thought was quite funny was that a lot of people were making the fact out of how it was a Netflix production, and it makes a case for not, when everything goes down, you still have physical media.
Yeah,
which I thought was quite funny.
That is quite funny.
Yeah, but I liked it. I mean, I thought again, do you really need to be 2 hours 20 minutes for a film like that? I don't think so. I think it's kind of a bit self-indulgent, but. Overall it was quite. I thought it was quite entertaining, and I didn't mind the ending too much. But yeah, it's getting a lot of publicity over here. Maybe it isn't released to Netflix yet in the States, but it's produced by Barack and Michelle Obama's production company. So they have I think this is their first feature film production credit. Okay, I'm not 100% sure if that's correct, but I mean, it looks great, and it has some great standout Twilight Zone-y type scenes. I was hoping for something really overtly supernatural and weird to happen at the end, and I didn't get that, and that's why I was a bit, unmoved by it. And the last one I saw is I've picked up Vinegar Syndrome's new release of Fatal Games on Blu-ray, and it is fantastic. I hadn't watched Fatal Games since we covered it on the podcast, which must be 10 years ago at this stage. So watching it on the Blu-ray, which looks great. I mean, it still looks like grainy in early 80s, but it's just everything is much clearer, including darker scenes that are now, you can make out what's happening. I was just taken aback at how good the film actually is, particularly the finale, which is great fun. And I just, it often gets compared to Graduation Day because the two films are these early 80s slashers set in sort of the athletics department of a high school, and I think Fatal Games is better than Graduation Day from watching it this week. It's packed full of extras as well, including a brilliant commentary by our good friend Amanda Reyes and Bill Ackerman, which is informative and funny, and they were actually recorded it in the gym where the film was set, or where it was filmed. So they've gone the extra mile with that commentary. So yeah, a
brilliant package, well worth picking up if you're a fan of Fatal Games. Fine. I think this is its first proper high definition release. It's probably, was it ever released on DVD even? Justin, can you remember?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Yeah, they've really plucked one from, well, it's not obscurity as such, but, it's well worth picking up, because if you've only ever seen the VHS, which is what I have only seen before this, it's kind of a revelation. So, yeah, big up for the Fatal Games Blu-ray.
Cool. Okay. Well, I'm definitely interested in picking it up at some point. When I reviewed it on Hysteria Lives not that long ago, I rewatched the kind of VHS version, and I don't think it's a great film, but my appreciation may be swayed slightly towards a positive if I saw a kind of a decent sort of cleaned up version. So excellent. All right. Well, thank you very much, Joseph. Have you seen anything?
No, I don't think I have. I mean, it's only been like not even a week since we've recorded, I think. So no, nothing from me.
Okay. Thank you, Nathan. How about you?
No, the only thing that I watched just with the Christmas season coming around, I wanted to be a little more festive. So I watched To All a Good Night, the Killer Santa movie. And my opinion on it is still the same as it was before. I love the movie, love the music. I think the Santa is actually very creepy looking. And yeah, it's a great film.
Now, is that one that's come out on Blu-ray yet?
It has, yeah, because I think I have it, yeah. It's
okay.
been out a while.
Well, maybe I've had that as well. I know, actually, I think I do. Funnily enough, well, it's always to get those good to get those Christmas slashers in, isn't it? To get you in the festive spirit.
Yeah, I mean, I still got Black Christmas. I'm saving it for closer to Christmas, and then I also have Silent Night, Deadly Night. I've got several I like to watch. A Krampus. So yeah, I've got several Christmas movies I need to watch.
Yeah, so excellent. Okay, and with Krampus, have you seen the naughty cut or whatever it was? There was a a longer version, wasn't there, of more violence?
Oh no, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, I think if you look out for it, there was a longer cut released in the last couple of years, and it was kind of slightly more adult version, I think.
Very cool. I'm going to watch it then, because I want to see a more adult version of the movie.
Oh, you're dirty.
I'm sure there is a sexy Krampus sort of porn a rip-off, isn't there? So, okay, well, I just got one thing for me I've watched recently, and I put the review up on Hysteria Lives, is the sequel, Schools Out 2, which was obviously the sequel to Schools Out, the German made-for-TV slasher from 1999. This is a direct sequel, where following on the events of the massacre from the killer jester at the graduation party in Schools Out, the following year, the final girl who survives that film is sent to a sanatorium on an island that used to be an ex-convent, where other teenage girls who are recovering from violent trauma having therapy, and then, funnily enough, a nun with a white veil over her face turns up with a very sharp knife and an antique harpoon and starts to spear the troubled girls. So this was the sequel, another TV movie. Now, if you've the first one was released to the United States by Fangoria Video back in the year 2000, so there was some kind of knowledge of that. And I think I'm right in thinking, because when I watched the dubbed version, not dubbed, the subtitle version, but I imagine it was dubbed back then. But the sequel has never had an English-friendly release, so it wasn't dubbed into English, and it's never had an English subtitle either. So so I had quite a lot of fun with this one. It's less gory and less exploitative, I kind of guess, in some ways than the first one. And again, if you read the review, it explains why. But had fun with that. Some people who commented on the Hysteria Lives Facebook page didn't have as much fun with it. But
no.
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie, but I love the drama on your Facebook page. It's like people, I mean, I get it. I get what they're trying to say, but come on, talk about the movie here. We're talking about the movie, not, some tertiary person who lives like thousands of miles away. It's like, what? Talk about the movie.
Yeah, I also quite like the fact that the director himself turned up and started getting into it people on there as well. So
that was a good plot twist right there.
That was a plot twist. So, so do check that out. The film as well, if you get a chance to. Say is hopefully, fingers crossed, there may be some news about those films getting some kind of better English language release at some point, hopefully, or nothing concrete. Nothing concrete yet, but I know apparently the rights are available, so who knows if that might happen. But in the meantime, I think the sequel is on YouTube if you search for it. And also, just as a hint, I mean, most people probably know this, but if you, I'm not sure if you can do it if you're using a Fire Stick, but certainly on my computer, on my laptop, there's you can do the closed caption option and auto translate. So if you've got films on there that are not in English language and you want to get some idea, obviously auto-translate stuff is not exactly always the most reliable, but you can get at least an idea of what's being said, even if it's sometimes incredibly wrong, but you can get the gist. But, talking of funny...
one thing to say about School's Out, did they use Toya's version of School's Out and the end credits by any chance? Because she does a version of School's Out by Alice Cooper.
No. Well, obviously there was a kind of clown and jester in it, but I didn't spot Toya. Although she may have been, there is a whole classroom full of creepy clown and jester costumes, so she might have been lurking in there, I don't know. So.
Bully.
Okay. Bully. Oh. Christmas bully.
You ask every time you're like,
exactly.
Every time you're like, I'm going to mention Toya just to see what he says. I think you just like to rile him up.
I think you've been rumbled, Erik. So, okay. Well, let's. I can hear those sleigh bells ringing, and the snow's falling. So we're going to get to our main feature, which is 2001's Shredder. So, Joseph, what do we have? Do we have a trailer or?
Yes, we have a trailer for Shredder at the ready.
Okay, so we'll play out with this. We'll play this, and then Joseph will be back in a mo.
On the perfect slopes of Rocky Summit, a deadly force is waiting for the perfect moment to strike.
Stay away from Rocky Summit. According to the legend, it's haunted. Weather changes every 5 minutes. Angry spirits.
That's good advice. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Why did this place close down?
There was this little girl. She was skiing by herself.
Leave me alone! You mean she died?
And they say the ghost of the little girl still wanders the slopes.
Hello? Is anyone there?
Now, a group of outsiders
That's a totally whack snowman.
are about to find out
You tricked us into breaking into an abandoned ski resort, the site of unsolved murders.
the terrifying truth.
Whoa! I didn't know anyone else was up here. Somebody help!
Where are you? Come and get me!
We gotta get out of here!
Can anybody hear me? Is anybody left?
Shredder.
Horror hits the slopes in this sexy slasher film about a gang of snowboarders on a one-way chairlift to terror. Featuring hot young stars, killer suspense, and snowboarding sequences to die for. Shredder is an ice-cold, rip-roaring scarefest that takes terror to a whole new altitude. When 7 hot-blooded co-eds break into an abandoned ski lodge, the stage is set for a wild weekend of hot partying and heavy powder. But when the bodies start turning up, they begin to suspect they're not alone. Stalked by a psychotic skier, the gang soon discovers that on the slopes, no one can hear you scream. Okay, that was from the back of the 2003 MGM Home Entertainment VHS release, and I remember seeing Shredder back around the time it first hit DVD and thinking it felt like a like Too Little Too Late affair. It kind of glued itself to that whole Scream look and feel. But obviously by 2003, that kind of fad had kind of turned. But as this one seems to have some sort of popularity with our audience, I figured it was time for a reassessment. First of all, I don't remember it being so cheap, like at all. Like half of the dialogue in the movie sounds like it was 80 to hell and back, especially with the character who carries around the camcorder. It's like you can tell they had to like post hoc record his dialogue in the studio after the film was made. So that kind of indicates there might have been some trouble with the production. The characters are also all sort of bland. They're kind of lifeless stereotypes, or either that or they're obnoxious kind of snow bros. And so it's kind of easy to care more for when they die than when they run. The snowy atmosphere, it should be more atmospheric, but it just feels kind of sunny and bright, almost like a travelogue video for a resort or something. On the plus side, though, I like the wide variety of deaths in the film, and the fact that every time someone is involved in a chase scene on skis or a snowboard, they speed up the footage to give it this artificial sense of urgency. I got a real kick out of that. I also got a kick out of the hilariously dated fashions and lingo from the characters at the time, and also from watching some of the effects in high definition. Got quite a few laughs out of me as well, especially the bit with the Thresher at the end in what looks like this digital matte effect with a mannequin gone wrong.
I love it.
It's so
Hey, I
phony.
thought that was ILM.
It's so terrible, but I love it. All that stuff I actually like about Shredder. But, I think all that stuff's just kind of surface level in retrospect. The stuff I should like, the slasher plot and the characters, I thought it was, it was all okay for a one-time watch. But, like I said, the characters here were all either a little too loud and in your face or kind of bland to the point of cardboard. And there's no suspense or atmosphere to be had. And it just becomes kind of obvious that, a lot of the snowboarding footage that we see, and there is a lot, it just becomes kind of obvious that that was the perfect pal for padding up the film. So I think I liked Shredder more as kind of a cheap time capsule than I did as a slasher film. It's kind of flat, but on the other hand, it's kind of endearingly flat. I mean, it's not like unlikable. It's just a cheap direct-to-video movie, and that's really all I can really say about it. I can't hate it, but I can't really muster much else to say about it either. So I'm going to pass this one over to Justin. What did you think about Shredder?
I think I liked it more than you did. Certainly, I thought it was kind of breezy and fun, and it wasn't trying to do anything new. It kind of had a few kind of screamisms, for want of a better term, in there as well. But I thought the characters were it was on the right side of kind of Troma-esque feel to it, in so much it didn't go as far as Troma. Their characters, although they were all kind of one-dimensional, they were still quite over the top. Like, yeah, the whole broism thing of everything's kind of tubular and whatever, all the kind of 2001 sort of bro speak became a little bit wary-ing, but the fact is that then most of them died, so I didn't mind that too much. Because I interviewed the director way back when I first reviewed it, which is what I've got some background. But just one thing from that was that he said he was inspired to do this because he was when he was skiing with a friend, they were cursing at the snowboarders and wanted to kill them. So I think the fact is that he's kind of coming from taking the piss out of those characters to some degree. I kind of thought there was some like witty moments in there. I kind of loved the kind of dark humor of the woman who gets killed on the ski lift, and she's just hanging and she's going around and around this dead body going around on the ski lift circuit, and nobody realizes. I like the fact that the killer made kind of snow angels with the bodies, so there was kind of an infectious sense of fun with it, which I kind of really enjoyed. It does look dated, but then that's to be expected as a film from 2000, a low budget film from 2001. I did like the final pair, the pair that make it out alive. I mean, obviously, if you've not seen the film, then we always encourage you to watch the film before listening to the podcast. But I was quite pleased. I forgot that the character Pike, who was the one that there seems to be an obsession in this movie about sort of women being lesbians, which was a bit strange. But the character of Pike, who they think is a lesbian and isn't, there's a moment when you think she's dead, but she's not. She comes back and saves the day, which I kind of, sort of cheered me up. One thing was going to ask, which I didn't quite get, and maybe I wasn't paying attention, that there were three. Obviously, at the end, one of the killers who get that incredible CGI effect of being pulled into the snow shredder was the hot girl on the who turns up and sort of skis and tries to seduce the filmmaker one. But who was the one who got the head chopped off
at the start? No,
I'm talking about the one when they're going to towards the end, when there's someone being chased with snow on a snow whatever ski thing, and then they go to get the head chopped off, and in that kind of by a motorcycle helmet, and it kind of rolls down the hill.
I thought that was at the beginning.
No, that was at the unless I'm dreamt it, but I'm pretty sure there was that scene when one of them's being chased, and then they go into the piano wire, and then
I'm having a hard time placing this scene, Justin. Are you sure it exists?
No, this scene was in the beginning because that was the opening death when he's skiing.
No, it is
the piano wire and he hits it and it cuts his head off.
No, Justin's quite right. There's a guy on the final guy is on a snowboard, and he's being chased by a guy in a skidoo. Is that what they're called?
That's
or a
right.
ski-mobile. And he gets decapitated with the motorcycle helmet on. So who is that character then?
Who is that character? Yeah.
I don't remember.
Well, thank you, Erik, for showing that I wasn't completely insane. But so I wasn't sure who that character is supposed to be, because her father is the bar owner who plays that kind of character, like very similar to, obviously inspired by my.
Well, I assume it's just one of the people at the bar. Then I guess if it's not him.
Yeah, it just never explains it. It never explains who else is, because it's we're led to believe that her father said that I'm just up there scaring the kids, but I haven't killed anyone. And then he does get killed, but it turns out that it was actually his daughter doing the killing. But then presumably somebody else was also chasing them, and that was whether or not that was kind of a mistake by the filmmakers, that they were just a bit confused, or I don't know. But the fact that you both Nathan and Joseph missed that completely goes to show that maybe it was a bit confusing. But overall, I thought it's fun. It's a fun, breezy, direct to sort of DVD slasher from 2001, and I thought the cast were clearly having fun with it. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and I think there was some good sort of suspense, sort of slashing scenes, especially the scene when one of the women locks herself in a cupboard, and there's a severed head in there that the killer is poking a sort of ski pole, I think, through, and it kind of sort of basically embeds the severed heads and pushes it towards the woman while she's screaming. Things like that. I just thought, it had a sense of fun, so I appreciated it.
Cool. Erik, what did you think of Shredder?
Yeah, well, this was my first time watching Shredder, and the film I was comparing it to was it called I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, the third film in that franchise.
I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer?
I'll Always Know What You Did, sorry, that was it, which was the third straight-to-video in that trilogy, and it was an okay one-time watch, and it was very straight-to-video, and I was kind of going into Shredder thinking, it's going to be that level of entertainment. And I was kind of pleasantly surprised with Shredder, because I found it to be quite entertaining. I'm kind of veering towards Justin's opinion here. I was just taken aback by how breezy and entertaining it was. And what I loved was, as Justin said, they're not trying to reinvent the wheel. They're not trying to be clever, or they're not attempting anything new, which was great. This is what, as a slasher fan, we want. We want all the familiar slasher tropes in there. I mean, it does look cheap in places, particularly the opening title, Shredder, appears on screen and it looks like it was done on a Spectrum or an Amstrad or something. It has that sort of real sort of home video vibe. And I personally loved how dated the film was, but both the fashions and all the sort of tubular and gnarly speak that these snowboarders do. And it's 2001, we've said this before many times, 2001 feels very recent to me, and it's only when you watch something like Shredder that you realise how long ago it was, because it seems so dated, which is why I'm probably in a position to appreciate a film like Shredder more nowadays than I would have been if I'd watched this back in 2001. I love the furry leopard print bikini ensemble that the bitchy character wears. She's the token kind of mean girl, I suppose. She's self-centered and she's no real interest in her boyfriend for some reason, and she goes around in leopard print knickers for a lot of the time, which are even worse than Lauren Marie Taylor's brown knickers in Friday the 13th Part 2, I thought. She does get that one suspenseful scene, though, where she's in the closet and... in the closet. She's hiding in that room, and her hiding place is given away by her walkie-talkie going off in her pocket. And I thought, I mean, as I said, that there's nothing new about that trope. It happens in a lot of slasher films, but I thought it worked really well, and I thought it was particularly goofy with the ski pole prodding the severed head. It would have looked great in 3D, I thought.
Erik, can I just say something very quickly? I had visions that if we made a slasher movie based on the podcast, that you could have a scene where you were trapped in a closet and you were given away by your soundboard. Shouting, "You whore!"
I was going to say, she's one of those characters like the bitch character from The Clown at Midnight that I wanted to see survive longer. I was kind of hoping that, they'd pull a switcheroo on us and she would be like the final girl or something, because she's so anti-type that way.
Well, I kind of liked the final girl that we got.
Yeah, I like her too.
She had a real sense of humor, and she wasn't dour like Sidney Prescott in Scream or something. She was there for a good time as much as anyone else, and there was nothing she wasn't a troubled individual or anything. I did love their take on strip monopoly, from Friday the 13th. Here they're playing is a strip poker, but Kimberly tries to outdo Jennifer Beals in Flashdance by managing to take her knickers off without removing her trousers. How on earth do you do that? Unless there's a fastener at the side of the knickers or something.
It's kind of like Grandpa Simpson on the Simpsons episode where he rips off his underwear to check his name. He's like, "Grandpa, how did you take off your underwear without removing your pants?" He's like, "I don't know."
It's quite the trick. So I mean, the film has a very bubblegum approach to horror, and it is, low rent. And I can guarantee you that if I'd watched this back in 2001, I probably would have switched it off after 10 or 15 minutes. But, because it has that dated feel to it, I thought the film really worked quite well for me. I personally thought that the image of the character Robin hanging from the ski lift, while it was goofy that it was going round and round and nobody noticed, I thought it was quite a haunting image to see her hanging from the ski lift like that. I thought it was a genuinely arresting image, and it added a bit of a kind of a serious tone, I think, to that part of the movie. I thought the death of the guy with the video camera was really gruesome. There was a lot of blood in that, and I thought it was really well put together, that scene.
I love that shot.
Yeah.
I mean, I love how it just stops short of hitting him at first, and he's like, so he can assess what's going on. Then it goes through the camera lens. I think that's just great.
Yeah, I thought that was good too. And as I said, the amount of blood they show in that scene was pretty outrageous. And then, of course, we have that final shot of the killer being dragged into the shredder or whatever it is, the snow plowy thing, which is possibly one of the shoddiest CGI things you'll ever see. But it had a really fun sci-fi channel movie kind of vibe to it that I loved. So yeah, I was taken aback by how much I enjoyed Shredder. Will I be watching it much ever again? I'd probably not. But I thought it was perfectly entertaining and well done considering the budgetary limitations they had. And I have this to say, guys, there's no doubt about it. I wasn't bored watching this movie.
Oh my God.
Snowboard.
You know what?
I've got another joke later.
You know,
Saints preserve
Eric,
us.
you just ruined it, Eric. I was just about to say, you know what? I never do this on the show, but I think your enthusiasm from you and Justin is kind of rubbing off on me, and I was going to kind of slightly change my opinion in retrospect, but that joke just kind of made me sour on the whole ordeal. So nope, I hate Shredder.
Well, I'm waiting for Nathan to go full Siskel and Ebert on this movie. Just as a complete switch around, which isn't going to happen.
No. Actually, Eric's joke withstanding, your enthusiasm is actually kind of rubbing off on me. I'm liking a lot of this stuff in retrospect now that I think about it. I still don't think the slasher stuff is all that strong, but the fun dated stuff is all good. But Nathan, what did you think?
I loved it. I thought that, here's the thing. I watched it when it first came out, back in 2000, early 2000s. And I remember not hating it, but not, loving it either. It was just all right for a one-time watch for me. But watching it now, I absolutely had a blast watching this. Like, I love, the scenes you guys have already mentioned with Robin hanging from the ski lift. Although I will say that, like, when she's sitting up there with the skier, and she will not shut up.
I know. It's hilarious.
Borders are the future. We shred and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, push her off. Like, she just will not be quiet. And it's like she just, I guessed the killer correctly. Did you, Eric?
I think I did, yeah.
But in all honesty, there's really only two people it could possibly be. And one is such an obvious red herring. And I always think back to what Joe says sometimes about when there's a killer in the movie. It's like, look for the character that doesn't seem to serve a purpose whatsoever.
Yeah, and this character certainly didn't. Yeah.
This character could have not been in the movie if she wasn't the killer. She could have not been in the movie and nothing would have changed.
So you're saying that in our movie, in the Hysteria Continues slasher movie, Erik would be the killer?
I don't get it.
Wow.
He's insinuating that the podcast doesn't need me.
It was a joke.
Oh, Justin.
Like you guys, I love the deaths in this movie. I thought they did a great job putting together a lot of fun deaths. Obviously we talked about, Robin's death, and then Skylar with the video camera getting the ski pole through the eye. I thought that was great. Like you guys were saying, loved the scene where Kimberly is trapped in that room and the killer is bashing through the door and catches the one guy's head and it just starts like shoving it closer and closer to her face. It's just, I love that. I couldn't think of anything else at the time I'd seen quite like it. So I thought that was very inspired and a lot of fun. Christoph, his accent did fool me until we find out he's American. I knew that he had some secrets, but I still didn't like think of him as the killer.
He's from Fresno.
Yeah. He has like a thick accent. So, well, it's fake. We find out later, he's just trying to fake things. His death with the shovel, I thought was, it made me laugh just because it happened so fast. It's so abrupt, like, look it up. No, wham.
It kind of reminds me, Nathan, of Who's Harry Crumb. It's like, why is he even bothering to put on an accent? No one knows who he is.
Yep. It's true. Like, none of these people know him. He don't have to put on some accent.
Yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever.
So, that's just another piece of the puzzle of this movie that I find to be, like, hysterical. Like, Justin, I really liked the character of Pike and Cole. I thought they were a really good, final couple. And I was shocked to show back up. And I was like, yay! She's still alive. I love when Kimberly is dying. She decides with her last breath to tell her boyfriend she never loved him.
I know, that was brilliant.
So mean.
Mean to the very end. Yeah.
Yeah, like very, very mean. See, and honestly, like, I liked all the characters. The one character, Robin, and Kimberly was kind of a bitchy character and stuff, but they were all fun to watch. And I love Kimberly in the hot tub scene too, because she absolutely knows that Kristoff is lying and could be a very dangerous guy, but all she wants to do is have sex with him. Like, you know, whether he tries to kill her or not, I guess. I love an icicle as a weapon. You know, Ista did it, so this one does as well, which, you know, again, I really loved. So yeah, I mean, it's just a fun, like you guys said, it's a breezy movie. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It has a lot of fun, bloody deaths. You know, good characters. I love the snowy atmosphere. I went snowboarding once, so you know, I know what I'm talking about. So yeah, they were good boarders.
Well, it's good to have an expert on the show.
I had to do the walk of shame because you get to the top of the mountain and you're supposed to go down in the snowboard, and I can't balance worth anything. And they all said, you know, the walk of shame is when you feel like you can't do it and you have to walk. Well, see, I wasn't going to do that because I was like, no, I'm going to go down this mountain, even if I fall a lot. So I tried to get my snowboard on, but my foot wouldn't fit in the boot part. So I ended up having to walk down the mountain and get it refitted. And all the guys were laughing at me because they thought I chickened out. I showed them, though. Once I got it fitted, I went back up there. I fell like 20 times, but I did it.
I could just picture Gonna Fly Now playing while Nathan's frolicking down the hill, doing somersaults and flying into trees.
But anyway, no, and just to finish off the movie, I liked the killer too. I thought she was fun, and like you said, when she was pulled into that snow machine thing, plow, I don't know what they're called. It just made me laugh out loud because I'm like, oh, there's those cheesy effects I loved from the early 2000s.
And you never notice that when you first see it on like VHS or DVD. It's like when you see it on a fine, cleaned up print, you realize, wow, they got away with a lot back then, but you can't escape it nowadays.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Background?
Yeah, backgrounds.
Okay, Nathan, do you have any background?
Well, I told you it was my expertise in snowboarding. Like, I will say this, when I was on the slopes, there were both snowboarders and skiers. Now, a snowboarder ran into a skier. Now, it was an accident and everybody was cool. But thinking back to that, I'm like, what if they had ran into like Shelly while she was skiing? We could have all been murdered.
Yeah.
Thank you. Literally have background and you guys are being death silent.
Background on the movie, Nathan.
Director and co-screenwriter Gregory Husson developed the idea for a slasher film set at a ski resort after a blizzard left him snowed in overnight at Iron Mountain Resort shortly before Iron Man's permanent closure. The motel was seedier and moldier than almost anything you've ever seen in a horror movie, he recalls. Screenwriter Craig Carlson was commissioned for the original story and screenplay, from which Husson made multiple rewrites. The film was briefly in pre-production in the winter of 2000 with plans to film at Iron Mountain, then shuttered, but briefly under new ownership. With a late start and a short winter, the project was canceled, quickly picked up and turned around by Iris Entertainment producers Jeff Miller and Rory Veal. And the guy that plays Cole, he played Steve on Full House.
Well, thank you, Nathan. Thank you for that's very well read out. Erik, do you have anything for us?
Snow is like rain, except it's cold. No, one thing. The only bit of background I have here, I'm just reading, continuing on reading Wikipedia. It was filmed in March of 2001 at the Silver Mountain Resort in Kellogg, Idaho. So Kellogg, Idaho is where they make Rice Krispies, possibly. A budget of $750,000. And in Japan, it was released under the title Jason Z, or Jason Z, as you would say in the States, in an attempt to connect it to Jason X, which had just been released over there.
Oh, so Jason went from the space to the snow.
Yes.
Well, shall I just read, because I did the interview with the director way back in the midst of time, probably quite soon after this came out, so probably 20 years old, but just to add to bits, the director originally wanted it to. It said it was inspired by that trip to the snow lodge, but as I already mentioned, him and his friends said that they really hated the snowboarders and wanted to kill them all. So rather than doing that, he decided they came up with an idea for a slasher movie. An original title was going to be Red Snow. But then his friend said, no, you've got to call it Shredder. So obviously that's what he did. He said that they originally, it was shot for a theatrical release, but they were unable to find a major distributor. So, but he did say the film had a very limited theatrical run in Pacific Northwest, from where the producers were. So maybe somebody did see it at the cinema. He said at the time he was anxious to do a sequel with the survivors of the movie. So he said it was dependent on how successful the film was in foreign territories like the UK, which would dictate whether there's a sequel or not. So presumably it wasn't as popular as he was hoping. He said it would be new resort, new baddies, similar situation, far more drastic results with even better snowboarding stunts. He said when I asked him about the film, he said, was it kind of? Did he set out to make a beer and pretzels kind of horror flick? And he said absolutely. He said that he didn't think there was room for a budget slasher movie that took itself too seriously. So I think it very much succeeded under those terms. I did say I kind of slightly, I don't know if I offended him, but I said I thought his film was more John Waters than Kevin Williamson and Wes Craven. And his exact quote was, "I'm not sure what you mean." So I think I just think because it had that kind of more fun feel, a slightly more exaggerated, the characters more exaggerated, not going full trauma, and not going full John Waters either, but it had that kind of slightly kind of over the top, but not so over the top. But I kind of thought that was fun. So he said, again, it was not. He set out to make the film that he did, which was, a sort of tongue-in-cheek horror movie, and I think that succeeded. So so if you want to read the rest of the interview, it's on Hysteria Lives under the interview section. So Joseph, do you have anything left?
Just a little bit going off of what was already said. It was filmed in Kellogg, Idaho, on a budget of $750,000, as Erik said. Now the filming date. I have some conflicting info here because maybe you can clear some of this up, Justin, but it gets interesting as it has been noted as being released in 2001, 2002, and 2003. It got released here in the States in 2003, so that's the date I'm officially giving it. But I read that it was filmed in March of 2001, though this is where it gets weird because it gets a mention in the publication Slasher Movies by Mark Whitehead, which was published in October of 2000, and he mentions the movie in the context of having seen it. So I'm not sure if it was actually filmed maybe in 99 or early 2000 and maybe shown around. I mean, there's mention of it being cooked up as early as 1995, as Nathan said on Wikipedia. And I think maybe Erik, you mentioned it, that there was a kind of a pit stop in development hell around early 2000. Also according to Wikipedia. So, I mean, it's really anyone's guess when this was actually made. Most official sources do say March of 2001, but that publication is kind of standing out to me. I mean, how did this guy see a movie that was not filmed until 2001, unless that publication date was wrong? I don't know. But also director, co-writer Greg Hewson, he had directed an indie feature called Decaf in 1996, and he followed that up with Shredder 5 years later, and he's done very little since then, except for a few short featurettes here and there. Furthermore, his writing partner on the project, Craig Carlson, he had previously done location scouting on What Lies Beneath in 2000, the Harrison Ford, Michelle Pfeiffer kind of ghostly thriller. And he was an electrician on Pinocchio's Revenge in 1996, and that's all he seems to have done as well. So, two guys who made a pretty decent slasher movie, didn't really do much else. I mean, it kind of, it's kind of par for the course, really. A lot of these good slasher movies get directed by people who just go on to do nothing. It's kind of weird. Reviews across the board are kind of mixed on Shredder, though Hysteria Lives did award the film 3.5 stars and called it, quote unquote, a bit of a treat.
Well,
and that's all I could really dig up on Shredder. So,
well, it's not bad, especially as Erik and Nathan exhausted Wikipedia. So, well done.
How rude.
So, what was the consensus on the groups?
A pretty decent 35 comments for Shredder overall. Killian H. Gore says, lots of fun. And what makes it more special is that you can see it was filmed in those real conditions. No Hollywood fakery. I love movies like that. And none of our listeners have anything bad to say about Shredder, though Jim Verhoeven, no relation to Paul, is kind of middle of the road. He says, the definition of middle of the road. There's things to enjoy, an abandoned ski lodge, an attractive cast, some fun kills, but the dodgy early 2000s effects on the snowboarding footage is laughable, and unfortunately beyond their looks, the characters have nothing to offer. You could do worse, but a thumb sideways for me. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram to stay up to date on all that we're doing. Listen on Amazon, Apple, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, and about a billion other podcatchers, both good and terrible. Join us on Patreon for as little as $1 per month to help support the show. Or if you're financially inclined to do so, select a tier that fits your budget for that extra monthly bonus content. That's patreon.com/The Hysteria Continues. And that goes for our email address as well, thehysteriacontinues@gmail.com. Over to you, Justin.
Okay, well, thank you for everyone who's written in. And we do have some feedback coming up in a little bit. But first of all, we have a Christmas treat for you in inverted commas.
It's my joke of the week. It's so freaking fantastic.
What is a snowboarder's favourite 80s band? Bronski Beat. Bronski Beat.
Oh, no.
See, Nathan liked it.
I like their song, Tell Me Why.
Delayed. What?
I know, I had my finger on it. It's kind of, like they say, like if you catch a grenade or you've kind of, you step on a landmine and if you step off it explodes. So it was a bit, I had my finger on the trombone, so I couldn't stop it. I had to go. So, well, thank you.
It's not the first time you've had your finger on a bone and you couldn't stop it. It had to go.
Justin, you whore.
Joseph. Filth. So, we do have some feedback, don't we?
Yes. I have to go first with this one. This is from Daniel, and Daniel says, School's Out is a pretty cool film, but there's no way it is more deserving of 3 stars than Thanksgiving. Yes, both have disappointing reveals. However, the kills are so much better in Thanksgiving that it's like putting girls' school screamers in competition with He Knows You're Alone. I love them both, but one is so much better made, paced, and stylish. You might as well hit yourself with an old cabbage than use the same rating standards. Having said that, I think my objection arises because I've never used a numerical rating scale for anything. What does it actually mean? And that's from Daniel. Yeah, Justin, answer that one.
Well, mine's a follow-up, so the same guy.
Okay.
He replies back and says, I apologize for this post. I now strongly disagree with myself. It came across as more indignant than I meant it to be. But I stick by the bit about numerical or star ratings. I've never understood what they measure. They make sense if it's a practical thing like glue that doesn't work compared with glue that does. It's always bugged me that popular culture uses these weird rating systems that would never be used in any other art form. No one does this with paintings or sculpture. I don't understand top 10 lists either. And that's from Daniel. I will say, though, one thing to keep in mind is, regardless of your feelings on the star rating, is Joe reviewed Thanksgiving and Justin reviewed
School's Out.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So, I mean, it's 2 different people reviewing. So, I mean, you can't really compare. You would need Justin to review Thanksgiving to compare those.
Yes, and I just want to kind of add on to what he's saying. I actually agree with him. I think the star rating system, it's not just your site, Justin. I mean, a lot of people use it still, and I think it's antiquated, and it's really kind of hard to gauge a movie, rating it on a star system for me personally. I'd rather my words say what I mean to say. But, this kind of goes back to that whole Thanksgiving fiasco, and I gave it 2.5 stars, and that's kind of middle of the road. You can kind of gauge a film like that. You can take a film and decide, I kind of liked it and I kind of didn't, and give it like 2.5 stars. And I think that kind of works. But when you get up into the 3 and the 3.5 stars, it kind of gets murky, because some films are better made than others, but some films entertain better than others. So it's really more along the lines of, it's the reviewer's words you really need to read, and not just the star rating system, which is why I think it should be done away with. But hey, people still use it, so what can I do?
I mean, and if you think about it, like I've always put it into the situation of, if I was rating, say, Nail Gun Massacre, I mean, on an entertainment scale, that's a 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, that's why I gave it a 5-star rating on Justin's site when I reviewed it, because you can't really rate a movie like that on a star system. It just can't be done. So I wasn't even being serious when I gave it 5 stars.
But see, I would rate it.
You can't rate a movie like that, yeah.
Yeah, I would rate it like 10 out of 10, but I would also rate, say, Black Christmas a 10 out of 10. Does that mean I think that they're equal? No. I just get enjoyment from both in different ways.
Yeah, and it also just says that the star rating system's kind of flawed. You can't really go by that. So, I don't know. What do you think about it, Justin?
Well, all I know is that if I was rating Erik, I wouldn't give him 1. But I kind of agree and disagree in so much that
fucking daily bread. Eat it like you did those horse cuts before you became a priest.
Thank you. It's obviously when I started the site 25 years ago, it was all measured against Halloween, where Halloween would be a 5-star movie, and films that weren't Halloween would be further down the star rating. So I was stuck with it to some degree. I mean, I think it's tricky, because when you've got like over 500 reviews on a site, it's kind of how much time do you have to read all of them to get an idea of what might be a good movie and what might be a bad movie. Having said that, I agree. It doesn't, a very entertaining bad movie. And I've said I actually much rather, in a lot of ways, have more fun reviewing bad movies than I do good movies, because you can have more fun with them in a review. And also sometimes you can have more fun with them watching them as well. I had a lot of fun watching something like The Stone Man, which is a terrible movie. And it isn't a great bad movie because it's got lots of stretches of kind of tedium in it. But when it is a good bad movie, it's fantastic. So it is difficult to rate films given that criteria. So, but in some ways, I'm kind of stuck with it to some degree. So some of the films like Sleepaway Camp and other films that I reviewed way back in the midst of time, I would give them higher reviews now, higher star ratings now. And
that's the thing. Opinions change over time.
Well, they do. Well,
you really can't. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Is opinions change. Something that is. That's why it's kind of interesting going back and starting to watch these kind of post-Scream slashers, because some of them at the time I was quite dismissive of them in some ways. I thought that I kind of like some of them, but some of the cheaper ones I just was quite dismissive. No, with 20 years. Later, they have a kind of charm of their own as well. They have another sort of an added sense of nostalgia to them. So it is tricky. The star system is flawed, but quite what you replace it with, I don't know. I mean, in hindsight, maybe what I would have done is like 3 ratings on cheese, gore, and sort of a good movie. As in like is this the next Halloween or something? So to give some, along those lines, but yeah, like they say, opinions like assholes. Everyone's got one. So it's
that's it. I mean, that's ultimately it. I mean, it's basically it's an opinion piece. It's not a fact. It's opinion. That's really all it boils down to. And really, how much does someone else's opinion really affect your enjoyment of a film?
Well, yeah, it's kind of sometimes that people, I've had some criticism on a Facebook group for saying, why are you reviewing these shitty movies? And it's just like, well, it's the same way as I don't understand people moaning about Vinegar Syndrome putting out, quote unquote bad movies. They're saying, why are you putting out this trash? And it's just like, because they're fucking Vinegar Syndrome. They started with these movies. It's kind of like one man's trash is another man's treasure. And so, and I say I enjoy a good bad movie as much as the next man, and I kind of I do get a lot of fun. I take a lot of fun out watching films that may not be the greatest. So it doesn't mean
it's kind of like asking a janitor why do you plunge toilets at 3 a.m.? Somebody's got to do it.
Well, I wouldn't quite go that far with it, to be honest. I don't know. What are you trying to compare Hysteria Lives to? Plunging toilets?
No, I was talking about Vinegar Syndrome and the movies they release.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's tricky for a label that started off releasing things like Savage Water, and then has kind of gone on to release kind of more highbrow things. Having said that, there's been a massive change since we started on the podcast. I mean, huge change since I started writing Hysteria Lives in the way that people view these movies. There's been this huge kind of increase in looking at some of these movies in a more analytical way, more academic perhaps way.
And not to mention, that they have so much access to all this content now. When we started the podcast, we were still more or less watching VHS tapes and old DVDs with barely any bonus features on it. So
yeah.
So
So that was. I hope
that's a long answer to his question.
That is a long answer to his question, but no,
I
thank you.
got that, Justin. You want to reevaluate your rating for Splatter U.
Well, I already did that in some way.
I really think that 5 out of 5 would suffice for me.
I don't think I could do that. There's such a thing as journalistic integrity, unless the director wanted to pay me lots of money, of course.
Then the integrity goes right out the window.
Well, of course it does. No, but I kind of feel like we already did that when we recorded the podcast on it.
Or the commentary.
And I actually kind of enjoyed the film more than when I saw it. Because again, when I first started Hysteria Lives 25 years ago, I was comparing everything to Halloween and Friday the 13th. And there aren't, that unfortunately nothing's going to measure up to Halloween as far as being a perfect slasher movie. There's not, Friday the 13th still like a benchmark of that whole invention of that whole slasher movie thing, the one-by-one murders. So it was a mistake to do that, but then that's hindsight, quarter of a century hindsight. So
hey, you gave it a 50% on the Fiesti fromage.
Feisty fromage.
Feisty fromage.
Oh,
Fiesti fromage.
Oh, Nathan.
I'm so glad Nathan never went to school for linguistics.
Fiesta. I thought it said Fiesta, and then I saw the Y at the end, and I'm like, oh, and it was too late. I'd already started saying it.
Anyway, it was nice you've been sampling your Christmas presents early, Nathan. So, shall I move on to the next? I've got one here, a bit of feedback. It says, I have recently enjoyed Dementia 13, My Dear Killer, and Nail Gun Massacre. So 3 kind of very different slasher films, I can guess. Dementia 13 is the 1963, is it? Francis Ford Coppola kind of proto-slasher. My Dear Killer is the early 70s giallo, and Nail Gun Massacre, of course, as we know, is the 1985 masterpiece.
And the best of the lot.
And he says, I loved all of them. I'm also reading and loving your book, Justin. Thank you. My eldest son, let's call him Wamberto, I suppose, has watched all the Final Destination movies with us and has just finished watching the Scream movies. He's a little too young, but mature enough, we think. I was worried that if he watched them too late, they wouldn't scare him at all. He walks around the house in his ghost-faced outfit and talks in the ghost-faced voice about ordinary things like, can I have some cereal, Dad? Or have you seen my school shoes? We also ask each other in ghost-faced voice things like, what's your favourite hat? And what's your favourite scary vegetable? Etc. Till my wife tells us to shut up. Anyway, what old-school slashers would you recommend to a noob like my dear son Wamberto? I love that he's into Scream and Final Destination, but I like to get him into proper stuff too. Thank you all, and have a lovely Crimbo. That's from Wario Bava.
The Necrophiles.
There's some Roman Polanski movies, perhaps. No, no, that's a private joke. But what kind of old school slashers? I mean, if you've seen the Final Destination, the Scream movies, I mean, I kind of guess it depends.
Honestly,
I mean, a lot of those
first 4 Friday the 13th movies, Happy Birthday to Me, My Bloody Valentine, The Prowler,
April Fool's Day is really fun, I think.
Yeah, April Fool's Day is a good kind of shoe-in movie.
Yeah,
you can kind of shoe him into the genre. Yeah,
I'm kind of guessing that. I'm only wondering if he's quite young about the kind of sexual situations in those movies.
Oh,
because that's the only thing that there isn't really that in the Final Destination or the Scream movies particularly. So, but I think you're right. An April Fool's Day, I think, is kind of a good. I don't think that's pretty
safe. Yeah,
safe, isn't it?
And Nightmare on Elm Street doesn't have any sexiness in it, really.
No, yeah, the Nightmare on Elm Street films would be quite be good ones to go with, I think. But Hell Night would be another good one, wouldn't it?
Yes,
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Yeah, so we'll sort of check those out and report back, Wario. So, thank you, Wario and Daniel, for writing in. And if you're listening and you've got any questions, then you know where to write in. But so what are we covering next time?
Nathan.
It's $2.99, by the way, as well. So
okay,
it's probably going to be the budget for this movie he's going to pick with $2.99.
Hey, don't say that. What's crazy is I don't know why I thought it was Justin's turn next.
I don't think he has a movie in mind. Actually, I think he's trying to pick one.
Hey, don't say that. You don't know me.
We do.
No, we don't know who this guy is.
But anyway, I'm just going to have to tell you guys at a later date because I need to look at all the ones we've covered. Because I see a few that I want to cover, but I'm like, wait a minute, have we done that?
I was going to keep us in suspense.
I promise you I will have something today. I will let you guys know.
Okay, so, but unfortunately, dear listener, you will be in suspense, but I'm sure it will be a Nathan pick.
But hey, it'll be on our Facebook group soon, so you'll know what it is.
Cool. Excellent. Okay, and what are we playing out with?
We are playing out with the appropriate snowboarder-friendly Lords of the Boards by Guano Apes.
Okay, I don't know that one, but I'm sure it's appropriate. So all that needs to be said is thank you for listening. I hope you all have a great Christmas, and look forward to welcoming you back in the new year. So say a festive thank you for listening, and goodbye, good people.
A festive thank you for listening, and goodbye, good people. It's a tongue twister.
It is.
Goodbye, good people, and fiesti fromage.
And goodbye.
I got nothing. Bye.
Bye. Here's my joke of the week. What would the sexy movie be called? It'd be Krampus.
Oh, God.
Thank you. Thank you very much.